So, hello, Aurora, and welcome to Rock and Roll English.
Hello, Martin. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. I do feel like a bit of a strange stalker today because, stranger, I know lots about you. And as I quickly mentioned in our brief pre-podcast chat, the reason I enjoy watching your stories, sometimes just sitting on the toilet, flicking through your phone, is because it's very much like Rock and Roll English. You're just talking about day-to-day life, like things that have gone wrong with your kids or things that you just general life, and that is what we love on Rock and Roll English. Not talking about really serious stuff, just general life. So yes, I am a very, very big fan, and as mentioned, I can see myself in you in many ways because, well, in fact, you tell us, just in case anyone that doesn't know about you, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Aurora. I am Italian, and I've been living in the UK since 2011. Is that right? Yes, 2011. And I moved here when I was 18 to go to university, where I studied drama and modern languages because my original dream was to become an actress. After that, I went into teaching, so I did a qualification called PGCE, and I became a Spanish, Italian, and Latin teacher in secondary schools here in the UK. And I worked as a teacher for 8 years. I also moved to Qatar to teach in a British school there, but then the pandemic hit and we had to return to
Mhm.
the home base. So me and my husband, that is. And we yes, I taught in British schools for 8 years, and then I started doing videos online just to teach languages in general originally, and then it turned into more like teaching English to Italians because I kind of enjoyed the camera really. But I was still really very much into I was very much still in my teaching mode. So the first videos I shared were quite serious and, quite academic. And then I started embracing my drama side and slowly, because I've been doing this for 4 years now, um, started including sketches and situations and very much created characters that played roles that represented me on on a side. Like, one of my characters is Laura, and she's literally my alter ego. She represented me fresh from the boat to
Mhm.
the UK as an Italian with a strong accent or making lots of mistakes and falling into the traps of English. And, I play that creating lots of misunderstandings that may cause laughter and comic effect. And that's something I always found that it's successful when teaching. So when I was teaching Latin or Spanish in school, I always would, you know, play it to make it as comical as possible, so that my students would laugh and remember and stay focused. And so the entertainment really played a positive role in the language journey, in the teaching journey. And so yes, those videos started developing and changing, and they're always changing. And
Mhm.
I do everything myself, from the script writing to the filming to the editing, and I've become a better editor.
Just on that quickly, I just don't think people understand what is behind that. Like, people see your videos and think, "Oh, well, that's great," and stuff. But even just the script writing, as some of yours in particular are fantastic. The way, like, you've found some words maybe where there's a misunderstanding, but just that whole process is so time consuming and so difficult.
Yeah,
So yeah, I just want to say a big well done, because your
thanks.
video, I mean, obviously they're great, everyone loves them. But when I watch them, I just think of everything behind
Yeah,
that
because
as well. But
you're
I
a
didn't know you
content
edit them
creator.
as well.
Yeah. So
Wow.
so sometimes I start from a situation. So like okay,
Mhm.
I want to create a situation at the airport or at the supermarket or at the grocery store or at the post office. And I create the situation around it and I start brainstorming all the vocab that may be involved in that specific situation, that may be required, sorry, in that specific situation. I start thinking about any misunderstandings or any words that as an Italian or as a
Mhm.
non-native speaker I would use and then, cause how can I describe it? And then cause a
Confusion,
confusion.
I suppose. Yeah.
And, other times I start from the joke itself. So, for example,
Mhm.
very recently, one of my latest videos was the Italian cashier. So I've done a few of those. You got the Italian cashier and the British, customer, right?
Mm.
And this latest one started from, um, the word "Berlin." So Berlin in Ligurian dialect is a bit informal word which means the male genitalia,
Right, okay.
and it's
I
used
didn't know that
and
one. I
it's
was
used
okay.
to say, uh, is it, "Oh, come on." Or it could be used in any
Right.
way, like, "Oh, come on."
Got
Oh,
you.
and I noticed very recently that sounds like Berlin, the city. So
Okay.
I really
Got you.
wanted that joke in one of my videos, Berlin, Berlin.
Yeah.
Okay. And I started from that and I created a situation around it to get to Berlin.
Got you.
Okay, so it depends on the video. It depends how inspired I am. Sometimes I write scripts and then I'm like, oh, I don't think it works. And I
Yeah.
leave it. I just leave it there
Oh,
and I
wow.
go back to it a week later or 2 weeks later, and then I
Okay.
read it again and I realize what was missing, or I reread it. I'm like, actually, it's not too bad. Let's try it. And sometimes I
Yeah.
share things which I think are absolutely hilarious and they're gonna be great, and then they do not perform, and there's other things where at other times where I'm like, "Oh, I hate this one," and I post it and people love it. My very
Yeah.
first supermarket video was, Laura not understanding what the cashier was asking, and the cashier was, asking questions such as, "Do you want a bat? Do you want a bat with that? Do you want a bat with cart? Do you have a club cart?" Like this, right? And Laura was really panicking, and she was saying, "Sarah, please help me." Sarah is my posh British character, and Sarah pops up as a little fairy, and she kind of translates what the cashier says. So that was my very first supermarket video, and, I was about not to post that.
Oh,
Hated
wow.
it.
And that one,
I hated
that
it.
was the one that did really, so that one, just in case anyone hasn't seen
Yeah.
that, is what's great about that is the English girl with the fake eyelashes, which my wife, as an Italian, has picked up on and always says that to me. And it's that and wearing like flip flops that English girls love. Fake eyelashes and flip
Yeah, and
flops.
the head bun, the
Yeah,
little
exactly.
hair bun, sorry. Um, so yeah, that was my very first supermarket video, and people absolutely went ballistic about those. They loved them,
Mm,
and several of those went viral. Like, the majority of those always get
mhm.
millions of views on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. So the very first one I was about not to post because I hated
Phew,
the
wow, there's
editing
a
of it.
lesson. Yeah,
I just thought the green screen was really rubbish. The quality of the video was really rubbish, but then it worked, so who knows?
yeah. Well, that's I think actually a useful lesson because I've had the same like similar situation to that, but I always think I've got to the point now. If I think if I've invested more than like 20 minutes doing something, I just think I'm just going to do it because sometimes you actually just don't know how it goes at all.
Yeah.
Um, but it's also good seeing the opposite now of when you have the supermarket sketch and you have the like English girl going to the supermarket and like making a bit of a fool of herself and like saying things which make it's for example it's nice for me to see almost English people looking stupid.
Yeah, but
um,
I mean, yes, 'cause, in the majority of my videos, as they represent me and my mistakes,
mm,
there's always the Italian girl looking stupid.
yeah. um, I always remember when I first said to my wife, we were having a pizza, and I said, "Can we have some oregano?" And like she absolutely fell on the floor with laughter.
Well, one
Um,
one of my husband's greatest lines was at the restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and he said, "Possiamo avere acqua del gabinetto, per favore?" He said
so for,
gabinetto, which is the toilet, instead of rubinetto, which is the tap. So he
mm,
asked for toilet water instead of tap water, and I was dying.
yeah, it is strange how when you speak that language, you probably sometimes can't see the connection between those two words. But then when someone else says it, you can actually
Yeah, I never
um,
noticed that, so
one of my first things when I was in Italy, I was talking to someone, and her brother had had a baby, and I knew the mum as well, and I wanted to say your mum is very happy, like obviously felice, but I said facile, like, and sort of obviously your mum is easy, kind of, yeah. I'm sure that sort of
well,
translates in
this
most
morning,
languages.
this is what happened to Sam. He wasn't speaking to me in Italian, he was speaking to me in English, and he said this. He looked at me and he said, "Hello, ball." And I was like, "Sorry." And he was like, "Sorry, I meant beautiful." I was like, you completely spoiled the moment. Thank you very much. That one time you gave me a compliment, you called me a ball. Thank you. Thank you very much. So it
Lovely.
happens in
Call
English
it
as well to native speakers.
calling someone a bull,
I
yeah.
was like, "Hello,
um,
ball." Sorry.
what a compliment
I
that is.
know,
But
yeah.
um, as mentioned to you again in our pre-podcast chat, I see myself in use in lots of ways because, well, when I was living in Italy, and I was married to an Italian, obviously I had children there, and it's obviously the same for you on the other way. So I wanted to ask you some questions to see what it's like on the flip side, because I've spoken on this podcast so many times about things that I found so strange in Italy, obviously being a Brit, going there as well. I had the disadvantage of not knowing anything of the language when I got there, so that took me quite a while as well. So, living in the UK, what are some things that you find strange about us Brits?
I mean, it's too late to ask that question.
Or in fact, so here's the other thing:
Been
or have
so
you just
long
become
now.
so? I
Oh,
was
it's
going to say
I
Britanized.
can
Is
I
that? I
can
don't think.
I can think back at the beginning and
Mm.
some things that um really annoyed me were
But so one thing that I've heard you say, which I do this myself, is because you've lived abroad for so long, and I've heard you say that your Italian has suffered. And I feel like that with my English because I lived abroad for so long, and I was just obviously teaching English, talking like using basic English for like the whole day. And I made a video the other day, and I think I said it's one of the most expensive areas of London. And I was thinking, is it of London or in London? Surely it's in London. But I was just like, almost, you translate from Italian
yeah.
sometimes. I find myself making errors in English because I'm almost translating from Italian
Yeah,
sometimes.
no, my
Um,
Italian is really bad, and it's a
mm,
shame because I
yeah,
because I went to I did Liceo Classico, and when I graduated from that, my Italian was amazing, and
mm,
I spoke really well and I wrote really well, and now
mhm,
I am awful. I make lots of
yeah,
mistakes. I sometimes I have a weird accent. A lot of people say that when I speak Italian, my accent sometimes is a bit strange, like
bit weird.
I sound a little bit English when I speak,
Yeah,
maybe with some consonants, I'm not sure.
mm,
And then, yeah, when I have to if I have a chat, an informal chat, I'm absolutely fine. But
yeah,
if
yeah.
I have to have a formal conversation, then I struggle a little bit more because,
Uh,
I know what I don't know, if you know what I mean. If that
yeah,
was my first if that was my second language, I wouldn't. But because
yeah,
I've
yeah.
studied, I know the level of Italian
Of
that
course, yeah.
people that speak really well have, I realize what I'm lacking, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I really miss so much
Mm,
vocabulary." So
yeah.
I lack, sorry, I don't miss it. I lack it. And, yeah, so, but at the same time, I find the same in English, even though I'm fluent and I feel like perfectly confident in English, I find the same that I'm not 100% as confident
Mhm.
as I'd like to be. And I wonder if that's normal when
I
you're
think,
bilingual.
yeah, I imagine, I don't know, that's something that probably you never. I think if you speak a second language, again, this is just my theory, you will always still think, I can do better with this.
Yeah,
Um, I assume, I don't know, but these like things about living abroad, it's good to sort of share these things. People don't really think about these
yeah.
things when you live abroad. How you, even your own language, you start to
Yeah, I
almost
love the
lose in
meme.
some way.
Instead of bilingual is bilingual because you're saying
Yeah,
goodbye to
goodbye.
both of them
Yeah,
because you're not completely fluent in either by the end of it. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Um, this, I suppose, a bit of a deep question, which I wasn't thinking of asking, but I want to get your thoughts on this because I had to proofread someone's like dissertation or something like that once, and it was about immigration, and it said how when you move abroad, obviously you're always a foreigner there. Like you can be really integrated. Like I'm sure you are. I felt really integrated when I was in Italy, but I still was a foreigner. Like, and there's still, you still feel I am different. Um, but then, well, certainly now I've moved back, I still feel like a foreigner here. And so they say in this dissertation, this person was making the point, when you move abroad, you never fully belong in your new adopted country. And then when you go back, you don't feel like you belong in your country. So
No.
you're just stuck in the middle. Is that a feeling you've had?
Absolutely. And
Mm,
every time I go back to Italy, I feel the same. I feel like I'm a
yeah.
bit of an outsider.
Hmm.
I think what the problem is that we kind of seek the same feeling and comfort of that feeling of belonging that we had when we were
Hmm.
children. And we'll never
Yeah. Yeah.
have that once you've grown up and you've left. And when you go back to your
For
country,
such a long time
yeah,
as well.
for
It's not like you've gone for like 3 months.
and when you go back to your country, you kind of um are seeking that feeling that you had when you first lived in that country, but it's never going to be the
Mm,
same.
yeah.
So um that is also why, that it may be scary to go back to your main country because you may feel, "Oh, I left there for
Hmm.
a reason. I left from there, sorry. I left from there for a reason, and I, am I going to feel the same
Mm.
way I did when I was 16, 18, whatever, and left? Or is it going to be completely different because now I'm going back with my family, as a new person? You can tell me what your experience is like. You
Yeah.
feel
No,
is it
it's
exactly the
it's
same the way you left?
no, 100% no. It's, you do feel weird. And then obviously I came back with an Italian wife. And so you've always got that connection. Like we speak Italian at home, for example. That's our, like, I talk Italian with her. I talk English with the kids. But everything just seems so weird. And now like as mentioned, I feel like a foreigner. Like the thing that drives me crazy now in the UK is like someone says, "Oh, let's meet on Saturday. Let's go out, like have something to eat." Right? Yeah, brilliant. Like what time? They say 3 o'clock. And you say like,
Is that
that's
lunch
not
or
like.
dinner?
Is that
What is
exactly? What is
Well,
that?
you're
Like,
lucky because every time I say to anybody, "Shall we meet on Saturday?" I already have plans. I have to book into their calendar. That's something I hate. My friend, one of
yeah.
my closest friends, Rosie here, she loves the fact she's like, I love how I can just call you and ask you, shall we meet up
So,
right now? And you say, yes, just come over. That's something I can never do with any of my other friends. And I'm like,
mm,
and you know what's something I absolutely hate about you guys is like, shall we meet up? Yes, let me check my calendar. Right. In 3 months on that Sunday, the whatever of January,
yeah.
we can meet up. And I found that ridiculous. I hate it. I'm much more spontaneous. I don't like to plan so much in advance and put a meal in the calendar with you 3 months beforehand because I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do tomorrow. I don't know what I'm gonna do this weekend. You think I'm gonna know what I'm gonna do on the 8th of January? Actually, I know what I'm gonna
That
do on the 8th of January because I've got my British citizenship ceremony.
Oh,
Actually, I
wow.
know that.
There's like a full-on ceremony. I didn't
Yeah,
know
there's a
about
ceremony you
this.
have to swear an oath. Is that
Do you
right?
get to meet any of the royal family? Is that part
Yeah,
of the
I'm gonna
deal?
shake
Because
hands with with the king.
I know it's really expensive, isn't it? Is that
So
right?
this not the ceremony is not.
Like the
It's the
whole thing.
process. Yeah, is
Yeah.
I paid just under 2 grand, and I didn't have to
Right.
do the
Okay.
English test. So
Right.
you've got the obviously the life in the UK test, which is a ridiculous
That
test,
is mental, isn't it?
asking some crazy question. I did a few videos of me testing Sam and see if he knew the
Mhm.
answers, and he didn't. Um,
Of course.
then you have to do a language test to prove that you can speak English, but I didn't have to do it because my degree was from the UK,
Right.
so I didn't have to sit that. And then you have to do you have an appointment where you bring in your documents. That's another 250 quid, where they're checking whether your
Of
passport
course.
matches your face and things like
Uh-huh.
that. And yeah, so and then finally you wait. I waited for 8 months to see if it was approved. You get an email, and then you can book your ceremony. So
Right. And do you get a passport as well as part of this? Is that
no,
like a
after that you have to apply for a
right?
passport. There's going to be another few months to wait.
And will that say nationality British?
It would say British, yeah.
Oh, so one of my friends lives in Sweden and he got a Swedish passport and he said when he got it and it said nationality Swedish, he said there was just like a feeling in his stomach like, ooh,
Oh, okay. Oh, when you applied for
yeah.
the Swedish passport?
Yeah,
Yes.
he lives in Sweden, so
Yeah.
he got his
Oh, yes.
Swedish
Sorry,
passport.
sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll say British. Yeah, I'll be British.
Wow.
I'll be dual
I
nationality holder.
yeah.
So
Well, my plan is to do the same. But when I looked into doing this, I was still living in Italy, and I went to like the local comune thing, like council, and then
great
they said
experience.
no. Yeah, they sort of like waited like the whole day, and then they said no, you have to go to the police station,
Gosh.
and then I went to the police station, and then they said no, you have to go to the
Oh
comune,
my god, I'm gonna
to
do
the
a sketch
council,
about this because I think
and,
that's hilarious.
and then and then they said, well, maybe you have to like call the London embassy. And then I think at that time they weren't taking appointments for like another like almost 1 year. I thought, you know what? I don't really need this. So I think I'm just going to give
I
up.
think that's what they count on. Like they
Mm.
just really want
People
you
just give
to
up.
not
Yeah.
pursue your passport
But,
so they can.
yeah, my favorite one of these was, well, I say favorite, it was absolute fucking disaster when it happened. So I was living in Italy and I used to get the bus to work and already the bus times was like, well, I think it was one at 8:30 and then the next one was at 9:30 and then if that didn't come the next one was at 12 o'clock. And so I missed it. I was there, the bus 9:30. I was there from about 9:15. The bus didn't come,
Of course.
and so I waited there from about 9:15 to about nearly 11 o'clock. So I waited the whole morning. Then in the end I just had to drive,
And
and I thought,
then
you know what?
when you got the car, you saw the bus coming, I bet.
No, I didn't see it at all. And I thought, you know what? I'm not having this. So I'm going to go and complain. And so, like, went and complained and went to the office. And they say, you have to go. No, you have to go to the other office. So I went to the other office. And they said, no, you have to go back to that office. Went back to that office. And they said, okay, call this number. So I called this number. And then when I called it, it would say, I'd call in at probably at 11 o'clock in the morning. And it said, our offices are closed at the moment. They are open from 9 till 1. I was like, yeah, but it's 11. Like, so I'm calling in the hours that you'll say you're accepting calls. Um, so you just literally couldn't do
You
anything. I went to
can't
both offices.
complain. What is this
No,
complaining thing? You
yeah,
can't complain.
exactly. So yeah, that was one of the things that drove me crazy.
Yeah,
But
I can see
so
that.
as you mentioned, you've been so like ingrained now in like British life culture. So one question I have to ask you, like, because I'd imagine you've obviously lots of British traditions and stuff for just part of your day to day life. If you drink a cup of tea, would you drink it with milk in it?
Yeah,
Oh, you do?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. I mean, you might lose your Italian passport for
Yeah.
that, I think.
Well, that's way more than I've done to lose my Italian passport.
Wow.
Yes.
I I
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't think you would say yes to that.
yeah.
Um, again, my wife, when I remember it was at my grandmother's house and she made a cup of tea with like milk in it. And my wife's just like, when my grandma left the room, was just sort of like quickly passing me that cup of tea of like, please drink this. Like,
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
do it.
I have just chamomile with honey and,
Right.
yeah, and no milk, but with tea, yes, I have to have milk. I mean, I
Right. Okay.
feel literally I'm 50-50. Like, I feel literally I
Yeah. Yeah.
am British in Britain and I can be Italian in Italy. I'm 100% both, I feel.
Mm,
That's why I'm really looking forward to get my British passport because I feel
right.
having the dual nationality really represents
Hmm.
me at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Um, I must admit, I have a similar thing. Like, I remember when I first got to Italy, and it would be like, if we're eating this, you could only have this pasta, and it'd be like, no, like you can't have that
yeah,
pasta.
it's like,
Like,
when I
but now
eat
I see
Italian
that. I see
food,
it.
I am
Yeah.
going for the Italian way. I have the
Mm,
Italian food. I just appreciate each culture properly for the way they do things. So if I am
yeah.
having Italian food, I have it properly. I don't mix it up with other shit. With I don't, I hate when they put chicken with pesto. No way.
Right.
Like, no way. It's also
Um,
because I'm Ligurian, so I'm a big,
okay. Pesto. Yeah.
pesto lover, like
Yeah.
proper handmade I can't have the ready pesto, I can't have that, I have to hand
Right.
make it. But I also love a good Sunday roast. I love it. I
Right.
love beans on toast. I love a full English breakfast. I
Well,
love sausages and
see,
bacon. I love, I just love
yeah.
both cultures. There's also
So,
things I hate about both of them.
right.
So, yeah.
Any come to mind about English? Because, well, when you said Sunday roast, I thought, that is nice, but I was surprised at beans on toast.
I love beans on
um,
toast. I love beans on
yeah,
toast.
such a great meal, isn't it? Just a quick.
Yeah,
Uh,
I love it. It tastes so
uh,
good. The first time
uh,
I remember myself, the Laura of me, my alter ego, when I moved here,
uh-huh.
and, I had, I moved to the UK and I met a boy and we went out for 2 years and he was the first British again. He was the first, British person that really got me into the culture, let's say. And I
Mm.
remember he woke up one morning and he made beans and toast, and I was like, "What is
Wha-
this disgusting thing? Like, why are you having beans with ketchup in the morning? That's disgusting." It's not ketchup, it's tomato sauce or something
mm,
along the lines of that. And he said, "You absolutely have to try this before you judge it." And I was like, "No way, no, no." And I resisted for months. And then one day I was like, "Okay, right, I'm gonna taste it."
mm.
And I loved it so much. I was like every morning having beans on toast. And he would add cheddar as well. He had the
Okay,
beans,
taking it
so
to
he would
the
add some
next
cheddar.
level. Wow.
Wow, I loved it.
Yeah.
And I never thought I
Um,
would. So it's also, embracing another culture is also thinking, you know, be more flexible with your ways of living and thinking what life should be lived like,
yeah. Of
and
course.
really be more open-minded about trying new things and see there's another way of living. When I go
Yeah.
back to, when we have to deal with mums, my mum or, my husband's mum,
Yeah.
they have their ways. They have their ways and they have to do their things that way, and we are trying to tell them there's a different way of living, there's a different way of doing things, and it's okay. And it's really
Mm,
hard to get them out of that routine. Life should be like this, and you should go to school, or you should attend school, and then you should grow up, and then you should find your job, and then you have your, long-term relationship, and then you get married, and yeah, then you have which is exactly what we did. Which is exactly
um,
what we did, but also we are more flexible with choices.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I am surprised with the beans on toast, and I must admit that is what a way to treat a woman. Hey, to
In fact,
what a
it's a
treat that is.
relationship which didn't last.
Yeah, I actually thought what that's strange that that didn't last. The one which drives me crazy, and I know a couple of Italians that have lived in England for so long they actually do this, but it, for me is just absolutely not acceptable. Is if you are eating like pasta with like some fish in there, and then put cheese on that pasta. Like if you've got fish in there, what are your thoughts on this? Have you
I
become
am not a
English as
massive
well? And you do
fish lover, so I
right? Okay,
wouldn't I don't have pasta with fish in England at
hmm
all, ever.
right.
If I have pasta,
Okay,
I have pasta with scampi e
okay,
zucchine trombette liguri, right, in Liguria
okay.
back home. That's as far as my fish in pasta goes, and I wouldn't put cheese, so I respect the dish.
Right.
If I have
Um.
a roast, a Sunday roast, I'd put gravy on it. That's the way you eat it. Really
Absolutely.
funny,
Yeah.
something I've noticed of Italians that other cultures don't really do is well, how to maybe, I'm not sure about, like, Brits don't really think that far, is every time we have an English dish, we are really looking around at other people, see what they're doing, or we ask, we're like, "What should I do with this? How should I eat it?" Because we know how each dish we really have that mentality, that culture. Each dish has to be eaten in a certain way, and you cannot change the way you eat it. So we would do the same with an English dish. We're like, "Okay, how should I eat it? The gravy?" I remember the first time we have a roast, every time I have friends from Italy or family from Italy coming over, and we take them out to have a roast, and they all love it. Everybody asks about the gravy. Where should I put the gravy? And we just say, on everything. And they're like,
Yeah. Just go
is it just
mental.
on the meat, or is it just on the broccoli, or is it just on the no, on everything, or is it just inside the Yorkshire pudding? So it's really funny because I don't think you guys, when you come over, naturally would really make sure you ask how to eat something. You just
Yeah. Well,
go for it.
the classic is seeing people cut pasta,
Yes.
which I must admit I actually did that as well when I first got to Italy, and was quickly made aware that that is not really
A
tolerated.
big
So
debate we have between me and Sam is the fact that I eat risotto with a fork and he eats it with a spoon. I'm like, you can't eat it with a spoon. And I don't know why. But it just doesn't taste the same if you eat it with a
mm,
spoon because it's not a soup. And
it's yeah, I agree.
and
It's a
he
bit
just
weird.
says you're ridiculous. It's so much
Um,
easier to eat it with a spoon.
But one of mine was when my brother came to see me, and we'd gone out for dinner, and there was lots of Italians there, and then everyone had like an after dinner like what's
Liquore.
like digestive, like yeah, I think it was like grappa or something like that, and so you put a shot glass in front of an English person, and they just bang, just like threw it back.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of looked at it. I was like, oh, like, you're not really supposed to do that. You're supposed to sort of drink that
Slowly.
to yeah,
Okay.
but that
With limoncello, you should go for it, really. No?
you
Really?
would go for it even with a lemon tea. I would
Limoncello,
I
yeah,
now I
you
try
would
and
go for
enjoy the taste. I
maybe. I think
try
it
and
depends on the
savor
person.
it.
Yeah, the drinking thing is a massive thing, actually, you make me
Oh
think
god.
about it because I moved to
That was why I moved
university
away. I couldn't handle it anymore. I
straight.
couldn't handle the drinking.
Yeah. I was
Mm,
18, very naive, moved to
yeah.
uni, freshers week, right? The first
Oh
week
god.
of
That
partying,
I don't think people understand how like
I was
that is
shocked.
just so like, if you don't drink, like
I was shocked because some flatmates wouldn't come out because they said they weren't drunk enough. I was like, "Sorry? So you're not coming out? We're organizing this thing, going out all together, and you're not coming out because you're not drunk enough?" Just
mm,
makes no sense to me. And also, the pre-drinks, you have to get drunk before you go out. I just thought it was completely it just didn't make any
mm,
sense. On the other hand,
yeah,
when I go back to Italy now and we're going out, I'm very happy to have lots of glasses of wine or whatever. None of my Italian friends are on the same, I drink more than
yeah.
them now. and
Mm.
that's the British culture's affecting me.
It's just so much more fun when you're drunk. Like, so I don't know if this is the same for weddings in the north, but a wedding in Sicily, no one really gets drunk.
No,
And it's like, this is not
no.
fun if it's not. And the other thing I find really weird, again, I don't know if it's the same of weddings in the north, but in Sicily, it's like you have your starter, for example, you sit down, you eat that, and then everyone gets up and dances for like
In Sicily?
20 minutes, half an hour. Yeah. Everyone will get up and dance for like 20 minutes, half an hour. Then they sit down again and then have like the like primo, like the
Yeah, yeah.
pasta or whatever, and then eat that. And then everyone gets up and dances again. So I obviously don't. I'm like, look, unless I'm absolutely shit faced, I'm not dancing. Like, it's just not happening. Like, so I'm just that boring one. Like, luckily, my father-in-law is not a dancer, and he sort of
Mm.
like gives me some company, so I'll just be sitting on the table
Yeah,
next to him.
yeah.
But I just don't get like that, how to
So
go
they
from like
they
just
serve you the main course without wine or anything?
no, you have like a glass of wine, but it's not like you're like properly drunk. Like in England, like a wedding is like you have like the meal and then like drinking, and then when you're really drunk, you go on the dance floor. That's
I
how
think
sort of
this
British men work.
drinking culture is becoming more of a thing in Italy
Right.
among young generations now.
Hmm.
So if I see my wedding and my friends getting married now, I can see that they are drinking way more. I mean,
Mm.
I am not supporting that at all. I mean, I I prefer that British people drank less in general,
Yeah.
and there was less peer pressure. There's so much peer
Mm.
pressure when you go out with your friends, especially
Absolutely.
among men, to
Yeah.
"Oh, beer, yeah, rock beer, yeah, lads, yeah, let's drink." I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah.
I
I
hate that
agree.
culture. I hate, Sam was uh, a rugby player, and all he went to an
Hmm.
all boys school. That's another thing that's really different in Italy. We don't really have single sex schools, and so
Okay.
the men are really laddie, really manly, and
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't see that in Italy as much because of mixed schools. Like, men and women are growing up together, and they can
Yeah.
deal with
Yeah.
having
I
friends
went to a
of the
mixed
opposite
school,
sex.
but yeah, I went to a mixed school, but the sort of drinking culture was still the same, and like the peer pressure. And I remember the sort of yeah, just even like being at university or like in my 20s, and I would be like with my friends maybe, and you say like, right, let's do something. What should we do? And we would kind of look at each other and be like, when I was actually living in London as well, after I graduated, I was living in London. Like, right, well, let's do something today. What should we do?
Let's go get drunk.
There's not really anything to do, is there? Except go to the pub. And we're like,
But
yeah, I can't
that's
think of
probably
anything to do.
also
So
what it is. Like, there isn't that much to do. So
I mean, think like we lived in London, like Zone 2 London.
there's
I'm
plenty to
pretty
do, but it's
sure that,
expensive. Like,
yeah, that's
what are you
true.
gonna do?
Well, if we were cultured, though, if we were cultured people, we could have gone to a museum.
Yes.
But
But you do
those are
that
free.
once, a month or every 2
That's
months.
true.
What, are you gonna do that every
Um,
Saturday, going to a museum? Yeah, that's lovely, but I don't think very many people be interested in that. I mean,
so yeah, so basically, it's just let's go to the pub.
so
But
that poses the question, what do Italians actually do then with their afternoons when they are young?
yeah, I remember as well. Again, when I moved to Italy, someone be like, "Do you want to go out for an ice cream?" And I
And
would
a
say like,
walk
"What?"
along the,
Oh,
seaside.
yeah, but they would say like, "Yeah, an ice cream." I'm like, What? Like, we're gonna eat the ice cream. That's gonna take like 5-10 minutes max. Then what are we gonna do?
Gonna
I
go
just
for a walk
couldn't.
and a chat along the
Yeah.
seaside.
Or sometimes I would be out in Italy, again, especially in Sicily. Generally, we're outside most of the time. Someone would just come along, like, "I like, do you want a drink? I'll get you one." Like, "No, no, I'm not drinking." I said, "Well, what are you doing here then? Like,
Yeah,
you're
coming
making
to
me feel uncomfortable because you haven't got anything in your hand,
yeah.
and that's
But
weird
that's
to
you
me."
thinking that that's
Yeah.
awkward, whilst in Italy is very much, "I'm coming here
Mm.
to catch up and, see you and have a chat," and,
Y
you know,
yeah,
we're not
my brain just couldn't even now really, that's like I said, I feel very sort of at home when I'm in Italy, but going out and like not even like even just to get a bottle of water, just get
Just hold something in
something
your
to
hand.
to hold something in your hand. Like, what are you doing with your hands? Like, your hands are
Another
making me
thing
feel
that's really
uncomfortable.
funny is like British girls' pictures are all about them in a pretty dress holding a glass of wine. I don't know if you've ever noticed that before.
Absolutely,
Maybe
yeah.
because you're a man, maybe not. But whilst that's not the case with Italian women, they
Mm,
wouldn't take pictures of themselves holding alcohol. It's not common.
mm. I hadn't noticed that point actually, but yeah, the British girls picture I can vividly see that of like pictures on Facebook. Everyone's got a glass of wine in their hand. But yeah, I haven't. I'll have to pay attention to
Yes,
the
do,
Italian one.
do.
But what one other quick thing I thought I would share on like the wedding whole getting drunk thing. We went to my friend's wedding, and my wife was quite shocked that my friend's like parents and grandmother were like ridiculously drunk and dancing. She was kind of like my friend's grandma. She must have been at least 80, and she was very clearly drunk and kind of like swaying and putting her arm around everyone, which I can't imagine many Italian grandmothers
Absolutely
get
not.
getting
No,
smashed.
absolutely not. I've never seen
Mm.
my
Not
parents'
even your
friends,
parents. Okay.
my parents' friends when we went out for
Okay.
meals, and we went out loads. We will always go out on a Sunday to restaurants and stuff with it was like a thing all the time, going out for
Mhm.
meals with, you know, my friends and their families. Never seen any
Mm.
elderly Italian drunk. None of my friends' parents, never, ever, ever. I've only seen drunk Italians that were my age, just
Right.
us. Probably we were the
Mm.
first generation of
To
Italians, um,
to actually get drunk.
actually get drunk and quite often as well. I mean, not once in a while, like, it'd go out more often and it would happen. It was more common.
Mm.
But that was not the case. And that I personally have never seen friends drunk under the age of 17. It started
Okay.
happening when we turned 17, 18, our last
Yeah.
year of high school, not before, ever.
Mm.
No.
Yeah. It's yeah, I did a podcast about this of how it's just so ingrained in you because yeah, you mentioned you never saw your parents drunk. I remember vividly, well, even when I was like under the age of 10, and maybe we would have a New Year's Eve party or we would go to someone and all the adults would be getting
Yeah,
smashed,
and
like
the
really drunk.
thing is, uh, in my mentality, thinking back with me as a 16, 15-year-old, it was seen so badly by
Mm.
everybody if
Yeah, see,
someone
it's
was drunk.
standard
So I remember
for us.
once, I think I was 18, and we went to a dress-up party, and I did drink too much, and I was a bit drunk, and I was 17 probably. And, I remember the looks of my peers,
Mm.
like,
Yeah,
"Oh my
no.
god, she is drunk. Si è
Mm.
ubriacata." With that tone of like, "Oh my god, she's like" it sounded like I was a drug addict. I was a
Yeah,
addict or something.
shooting up heroin.
And,
Yeah.
I remember my boyfriend at the time was so embarrassed, and he was like,
Mm.
"You embarrassed me. You were so drunk.
For getting drunk.
Everybody knew you were drunk."
Yeah, that
And I was like, "Oh my god, what have I done?" I still remember it now. Like, oh my god, the sense of guilt of I drank that extra glass of whatever, that cocktail.
yeah,
So, yeah, so I think it's totally a cultural thing and,
that that is 100% true. The first time as well, I went to a party in Italy, like a house party. I was like, right, house party. I'm good at this. I know what to do. I bought a crate of beers. So I bought like
nobody drank.
20 beers, and thinking like, and we're going to get drunk. And when I got there, so it was a house of students. Then I think it was quite a big student house of like friends that I knew. There were probably about 6 people living in this house, and they were cooking, and I was like, "What is this?" But like cooking like nice food as
Yeah,
well. Like they were cooking like fish, and I was like,
barbecue. They were
I
doing a
thought this is
grigliata.
this is I thought this is a party. Like, I thought we were just going to get
No,
smashed.
it takes time to get used to from your point of view. It takes time to
Yes,
get used to
it
the
did.
opposite for me and be like, "I just wanna have a nice meal with my friends. Why do we have to go
Well,
out and drink and drink and drink? I don't really want to." So, yeah.
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 Luckily, obviously, like, I imagine it's probably the same with you from when you were at Freshers Week compared to now with two children. Luckily, it does slow down, it
Yeah.
seems,
Yeah, yeah.
because well, like drinking with children, since I've had kids, I've only got really drunk
Mm.
once. And the next day was like the
No,
worst
you
day
do
of
not
my.
want it.
Oh, I think feel like we've kind of badmouthed English culture a little bit. So let's finish with something you really enjoy about British culture.
So, I think I said this to you before, earlier when we were chatting before starting the episode, um, is how free I felt from
Mm.
people's judgment since I moved
Yeah,
here. I was
if
free to do whatever I want, to wear whatever I want, to
mm,
get out with no makeup, to look great, to look horrible, to whatever, and to express myself and my
mhm,
creativity however I wanted. Even this social media, that I set up and the sketches that I do, I feel at the moment completely free
mhm,
to present myself however I want,
mm,
wear wigs and costumes and not feel awkward about it. If I had stayed in my little town in Italy, I don't know if I would have
interesting.
reached this, enlightenment of creativity
Mm.
if
Well,
I would have felt free to
mm,
explore my creativity in this way, because I would also always think about, "Oh my god, they're gonna think I'm such a loser for wearing fake moustache and a man's wig and put a voice on," and now I feel completely free and
right.
happy. Um, Now if we have in mind the idea of going back to Italy at some point, so, will I still feel free when I go back? I hope so. That's something I wanna
Mm.
continue to.
This, if you do go back, that will you will be our live stories will be even more similar of living in the other country for so long and then going back to your
Yep.
hometown. um yeah, we can do another podcast
Yeah.
there about reverse culture shock,
We'll do it.
which is a thing, believe me.
Yeah.
It is a big thing. um but yeah, well, certainly, yeah, if you were getting judged for having that extra glass of wine when you were young, then certainly I can see where you're coming from
Yeah.
on that one,
Yeah.
of feeling more
But
free.
again, I was 15. Teenagers are
Okay.
nasty, so in
Mm.
any
Yeah,
country.
that's true.
So also
Yeah,
you have to bear
definitely.
that in mind, like, we're adults now, I'm a mother, I've got
Uh-huh.
I've got a family, hopefully it won't be the same.
Yeah,
I see
exactly.
British teenagers being really awful as well, so,
Absolutely,
um
yeah. Yeah, I think that is it's a good point. When I was in Italy, I sort of got the impression sometimes that people thought everything was perfect in England and said like, "Oh, like everyone's so polite in England," and I would be like,
adults can be.
uh, yeah, and all not always. And I specifically remember for the Brexit vote, I was there, and everyone say, "Yeah, but they'll never vote to leave," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm a bit worried." And they were like, "No, like the English people, they will never vote to leave."
I think
And then it
people
came in, and I was like,
people
"Oh
have in
God."
mind, Londoners more than anything and don't realise that the rest of the
I
country is, you know.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression lots of people imagined sort of like the classic sort of like Mary Poppins kind of thing of like or like a British man walking with his umbrella and his like hat on. And I always thought that's not really the case.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not. Well, anyway, I've taken up more of your time than I actually wanted to because it's been so lovely talking to you. I feel I can relate to you so much, and I hope people that maybe live abroad have found this useful. But just in case anyone hasn't heard of you, which I think is not likely, tell us where, or tell them where they can find
Yeah,
more
so
about
my
you.
page is Aurora's Online Language Lessons on Facebook, Instagram, and Aurora Ricotti Ottman, which is my full name, on TikTok, and Online Language Lessons, or Aurora's Online Language Lesson. I can't even remember.
I'll put links to all of this, will probably
Okay.
be easiest in the show notes.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank you for
Aurora,
having me.
and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.